Good morning from the walkway between Hollywood Studios and the Epcot area resorts. We're wandering today and talking about DVC. So let's get moving because it's cold and I need to warm up. So today's conversation is brought to you by a commenter. It's one of you who left a comment on one of my videos about Disney Vacation Club. And I actually want to read that comment to you real quick. So let's pull off. Actually, let's get into the sun. Then we'll pull off for a second and we'll go over it together. There it is. Do you see the spot of sun? We're gonna stop right there and try and soak up as much of it as we can. It is 48 degrees, so we can use all the help we can get. Okay, so this person says, not a hardcore Disney fan, but we do own Hilton near Disney World and Club Wyndham. I did a random search during weekdays in February, and it seemed that DVC was about $100 more per night than a comparable 4-star hotel outside the park. With convenience, nearby features, perks, when they're there anyways, parking and transportation, I totally get it. I've asked a couple YouTubers about this and they don't like it. They only want to compare rack rates for that very resort. If the resort is full of people paying $400 per night thinking they're getting an $800 room half off, it's probably really worth $400 to $500. You seem a little more insightful and call a spade a spade. Thank you, by the way. So I'm curious your take. We pay about $110 to $180 per night in Hawaii and Sedona mainly, where hotels start at $300 plus taxes. Sometimes I do pay extra in Vegas to be on the strip attached to a mall, which for us is worth the difference. Now, I love this question. I love this comment because it really speaks to something that I don't think people talk about enough when it comes to DVC, so we're talking about it today. And I responded to this person, told them I'd get back to them, and I know it's been a little bit, I'm sorry about that, but things have been a little crazy as we've jumped into the new year. However, they did leave a second part to that comment. They said, awesome, I'm looking forward to it. It being my response. Not many can look at this fairly without acting like they've found a money tree, or the total opposite, like DVC is a fake Rolex watch salesman. And that is a super interesting way to put it. You'll see why eventually. Like I said, we'll get there. Long conversation today, so buckle up. Also, as we're walking today, keep in mind we are going to be near Boardwalk, which is partially DVC, as well as the Beach Club, also DVC. So we're kind of in the neighborhood. Now, the way that I see it, this is a question about the value of Disney Vacation Club and the rooms. We're talking cost, we're talking price comparisons. And I'm also gonna sprinkle in a little bit of, is Disney Vacation Club worth it into this conversation? Like I said, there's a lot to talk about, but where I wanna start is with the YouTubers. And we're starting this conversation with the YouTubers mainly because I think that it's really important for context, and it was mentioned in the original comment. You know, this question has been asked to other YouTubers. It's been a tough question to get answered in an honest way, in a real way, I don't know. You can add a word there that works best for you in this scenario, but nonetheless, this is where we're starting our conversation today. The challenge when it comes to the opinions of some YouTubers talking about Disney Vacation Club, especially when we're talking price comparison, is because most YouTubers discussing DVC are not Disney Vacation Club members. Now again, I say most because it's most. There are definitely DVC members out there who are YouTubers who are sharing their experiences, but for the most part, if you're hearing about Disney Vacation Club from someone on YouTube, there's a really good chance that that person isn't a Disney Vacation Club member and that they are working with a Disney Vacation Club points rental company. In other words, they are advertising. They're doing an ad for that company in a hope to get more customers and clients for that company. And let me just say right now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's no shade or hate here. People sometimes like to accuse me of that when I speak my mind. Don't worry, if I'm throwing shade or if I'm hating, you'll know it. So why am I talking about it at all? Well, because it's important. It's important to understand that some of the people who are singing the praises of Disney Vacation Club but yet don't want to discuss it in depth, the nuts and bolts, they just don't have the information or, quite frankly, the understanding of the product. And so their knowledge is going to be limited and their opinions are going to be a bit skewed. And I mean, if you're a Disney Vacation Club member or even a member of a different vacation club where you have vacation homes or villa rentals, you might be able to spot when someone isn't necessarily familiar with the product that is DVC or another vacation club that's comparable, just in the way that they talk about it. For example, have you ever heard someone talk up and down about how amazing a resort is because it has a full kitchen? I mean, I hear this all the time, not only from people who are trying to sell those vacation point rentals, but also from people who are renting those Disney Vacation Club points and think that it is just the bee's knees because it has a full kitchen, and normally rooms don't have that. Normally, Disney Vacation Club villas and or other vacation villas do. So it's a lack of familiarity with the product, not fully understanding what it is and what is normally offered as part of being a Disney Vacation Club member. For example, of course, not all DVC rooms have full kitchens. These smaller rooms just have a kitchenette, but you get my drift, right? I know I've been a little bit long-winded here, but brace yourself because we've only just begun. All of this is to say, though, that I unfortunately don't think that you're necessarily going to get the answers you're looking for from someone who isn't an actual DVC member. Now, I am a DVC member. I've been a Disney Vacation Club member since 2001. I have multiple contracts, and I'm what they call a blue card holder, which means that I purchased my Disney Vacation Club directly from Disney. It's not a resale contract or anything like that. So all of my experiences are those of an actual Disney Vacation Club member who has been a Disney Vacation Club member for some time. Also, I'm not affiliated with anyone. I'm not working with anyone. I'm not partnered with anyone. I'm not loyal to any companies or anything like that. All of my opinions are my own. And while I feel like this goes without saying, I'm going to say it anyway, just for the sake of clarity. So everything that follows today, everything we talk about from here on out, understand that all of that comes from the perspective of a longtime Disney Vacation Club member who actually uses their membership, who isn't working with anyone and isn't trying to sway you. You do you. I'm just here to give you the information that hopefully you're looking for, whether we're talking about DVC or anything else. Open and honest, that's my policy. All of that having been said, I think that Disney Vacation Club can be worth it for the right family. Specifically, families who are going to visit Walt Disney World every year, 2 years, and families who need bigger rooms that can house more people per room. In fact, that's one of the very reasons that my family, and yes, it's like my whole family, purchased into Disney Vacation Club back in 2001. At the time, we were doing annual vacations, staying at Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, and it turned out that a Disney Vacation Club membership that would allow us to stay at Disney for, I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks at a stretch, with enough rooms to house our family of 4, plus grandma, grandpa, maybe some additional family members every once in a while, would, for the length of that membership, being like 40 years or something at the time, cost as much as one vacation. So it made sense. Buy into Disney Vacation Club, pay for basically 1 year's hotel stay, and be able to stay at hotels in rooms that were bigger than what we were staying in at the time for the next 40 years. I mean, like, it's a no-brainer, right? But of course, times have changed, prices have changed, and so our opinions have actually changed when it comes to Disney Vacation Club. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but nonetheless, now you kind of understand why we became Disney Vacation Club members. And of course, there are so many great things about Disney resorts in general. I do like the all-inclusive nature of them. There are no parking fees, there are no resort fees. You also have access to transportation, so you don't have to worry about the extra cost of renting a car. Like, a Disney vacation, while it isn't all-inclusive, is in many ways all-inclusive, at least related to the resort, excluding food, you know? I apologize, we've got some machinery moving today, which is where that very enjoyable and relaxing noise is coming from. All right, now with all that being said, let's talk a little bit about what a Disney Vacation Club room is worth. What is the monetary value of a Disney Vacation Club room? That's kind of the question, right? It's the question of the hour. Now, the commenter did say that they did a bit of research, which is wonderful. I did my own research just so that I could have the numbers available, you know? And they also said that they were comparing 4-star hotels. Now, I don't like using 4-star hotel as a descriptor personally, only because it's really confusing. 4-star hotels vary wildly when it comes to quality. And personally, I think that people misunderstand what it means to be, oh, look at that. Can you see that dog? This is a dog-friendly hotel, by the way, the Yacht Club, at very least. I think people misunderstand what it means to say that a hotel is a 4-star hotel. So I didn't necessarily use that when choosing the hotels that I did my research for. What I did was pick a few different places that seemed a little bit fancy pants, dipping their toe into luxury, and of course we're looking at a Disney Vacation Club property as well, just to kind of give you a pretty good idea of the variety that's available that, at least in my mind, compares to DVC, both in actuality and in people's minds. So I think that people do consider DVC to be a luxury option. I do not. More about that here in a bit. First though, let's find a place where we can sit down for a second, because I have numbers that I want to discuss with you. And, well, definitely no chairs on this section of beach. Anyway, we're gonna have to sit in order to do that. Walk in while reading numbers off of an index card. Bad call for me this early in the morning, at very least. Okay, I think we found our spot. Seems like as good a place as any. Sit down on a bench. Well, at very least pretend that there's a campfire going right now. So like I said, I researched my own hotels. I chose 4 of them. We've got the Gaylord Palms, Waldorf Astoria, the Walt Disney World Swan, which is actually right behind you, and Disney's Riviera Resort. Of course, Disney's Riviera Resort is a new resort. It's also a Disney Vacation Club resort, so we're gonna use that as kind of our DVC reference point for the day. But it is important to keep in mind that prices will vary depending on which Disney Vacation Club resort you're looking at. They're gonna vary based on so many other factors too, right? So time of year and so on and so forth. We're looking at May 18th for all of these numbers. So because families are all different shapes and sizes, I wanted to look into different options. So I didn't just want to look at the price per night, I wanted to look at the price per night for rooms of varying sizes. And one thing that I found right off the bat when looking at these different resorts is that only the Riviera has options that will accommodate more than 4 people per room, or more than 4 adults per room. Now again, there are plenty of different accommodation options near Walt Disney World. This is just what we're working with today. And keep in mind, for all of the resorts that are not the Riviera, we're going to have to take into consideration that for bigger families, we need a second room. So the pricing is based on 2 rooms in the case of a family of 6, for example. If I haven't said it already, because I very well may have, no discounts apply, no special rates or anything like that apply. We're talking rack rate for this portion of the discussion. Don't worry, we're going to be talking about DVC pricing here in a second, but we got to start somewhere, and we're going to start here. So for the Gaylord Palms, a room that can house 4 people is going to be $434 a night. For 6 people, that's going to be $886, and for 8 people, again, $886, because it's 2 rooms. The Waldorf Astoria is $925 a night. That's for 4 people. It's going to be $1,850 for 6, and of course $1,850 for 8, because you'll need 2 rooms in that case. The Walt Disney World Swan, which is on Walt Disney World property, but technically not owned and operated by Disney, so we are counting it in this kind of off-property adjacent comparison, is $337 per night for 4 people. For 6, it's going to be $675, and again for 8, $675. And then we get to the Riviera. Now remember, the Riviera is a Disney Vacation Club resort. It is located on property. Now again, this is the rack rate. This is the rate that anyone who wants to stay at this resort will have to pay if they're not a Disney Vacation Club member. A room for 4 people is going to be $952 a night. A room that sleeps 6, and yes, it is a bigger room with a kitchen, full kitchen, is $1,237 a night. And then a room that sleeps 8, which is again a bigger room, is $2,010 a night. Now it is important to keep in mind that the room that sleeps 6 and 8 will have that full kitchen. The room that sleeps 4 will have a kitchenette. So it is kind of a different thing altogether when we talk about the Riviera, because none of the other resorts will have that. Now, of course, different types of rooms will have different features, and it's important to keep that in mind when you're doing your research. This is just scratching the surface, but it gives you an idea of the price when it comes to what each room will cost. But again, That's the rack rate for these resorts. It's not accommodating for any discounts. It's not accommodating for Disney Vacation Club membership. So how much is a Disney Vacation Club member paying for these rooms? I mean, that's arguably what they're worth, right? Because they are Disney Vacation Club resorts. Now, to answer this question, we have to do a little bit of math, because it's ultimately how we get to the answer that we're looking for. So Disney Vacation Club, in a nutshell, works like this. You buy a contract for X number of points, and then annually you're gonna pay dues. Those dues are going to go up annually by a percentage. We're not gonna take that into consideration today, okay? We're just gonna keep things as simple as possible for the sake of discussion. Now, at Disney's Riviera Resort, currently, for a contract of 175 points, it is $37,519. Annual dues for 2024 are $1,550. That's $1,550. Contracts at Disney's Riviera Resort expire in 2070, which means it expires in 46 years. So in total, when you add up those dues on top of the price of your membership, assuming there's no financing and no increase in dues, we're looking at a total cost for your Disney Vacation Club membership of $110,392, or about $2,399 a year. When you crunch all of those numbers, each point that you have as part of your membership has a value of about $14. And when you take that into consideration, what it means is that a room that will sleep 4, which is around 18 points, is going to have a monetary value of around $252. A room for 6 is 39 points, or about $546. A room for 8 is 49 points, or about $686. Now, before we even move on, I know there are some of you who are saying, hold on a second. That's not what they're advertising when they tell me how much I could pay if I rent points rather than paying rack rate. I'm paying so much more than $252 or whatever it was per night. Yes, that's because you are paying 2 middlemen. What's actually happening is Disney Vacation Club members are working with a Disney Vacation Club rental service, and they're telling them, hey, we'll pay you this much per point, and then we'll rent that point out to other people. Then, after they've paid that much per point to the DVC member, they're going to add additional fees on top of that and charge you for that. So, if you're renting Disney Vacation Club points and you're doing that habitually because you would rather not become a Disney Vacation Club member, I can tell you with a significant amount of confidence you are overpaying for your stays at Disney Vacation Club resorts. Yes, you're paying less than the rack rate, but you are definitely paying more than you would if you were a Disney Vacation Club member, even if you were financing, even taking into consideration the increase in annual dues. So it's something to think about, especially if you're staying DVC all the time and you're renting points. So with all that having been said, let's go back to the original question. Are the rooms in Disney Vacation Club villas worth whatever they are, rack rate, $1,000 a night? No, they're not. And as someone who has stayed in nearly every Disney Vacation Club resort available here at Walt Disney World, hopefully staying in some other locations this year, fingers crossed, I can tell you that the rooms are about worth what we pay. They're worth about $200, $500 a night. And I also say that as someone who has stayed in other places around the country at a price point similar to what Disney Vacation Club members pay to stay in their Disney Vacation Club villas. These rooms are not even close to worth what the rack rate for them are, and in some cases they're not even close to worth what you're paying if you're renting Disney Vacation Club points, at least not in my opinion. I mean, it's an uncomfortable reality, but still reality. Sometimes the truth hurts, So why do they charge what they do? Rack rate for Disney Vacation Club villas? Because Disney Vacation Club villas aren't designed for the everyday guests. It doesn't sound very fun to say. Some might even say I sound entitled when I say this, but they're not meant for you. They're meant for Disney Vacation Club members. And so the unfortunate reality is that sometimes there are Disney Vacation Club members who are unable to stay in a Disney Vacation Club villa because there is no availability. We see this all the time. I've experienced it myself even, and it's a topic of discussion that even comes up in the condo association meetings. And I think that that's one of the many reasons that you see Disney charging what they do for those Disney Vacation Club villas. They can charge whatever they want. They're really not meant for the general public. They're meant for DVC members. And if you happen to want to stay there, fork over $2,000 a night. Might not be worth $2,000 a night, but if you're willing to pay it, they're willing to give it to you. And I mean, that's a problematic thing in and of itself. And it becomes a huge problem at Disney Vacation Club. The whole, if someone's willing to pay, it's good enough. I'm not even gonna dig into that today. Although we might. Anyway, let's find a spot where we can have a snack because I'm a little hungry. All right, we've had our snack. We've moved our way down the boardwalk and it is looking kind of nasty out. Definitely a little bit chilly now. Yeah, it's about 57 degrees, which means we gotta get moving so that we can warm up. And while we hustle so that we can stay warm, we need to address kind of the next part of this question, like the second comment. Is DVC a money tree? Is it a complete waste? I don't think it's either. Like so many other things in life, you have to be using this product being DVC, in the right way in order to make it worth it. And even so, just because it's worth it doesn't mean that you've like found the fountain of youth or anything like that. It's just that you're getting what you paid for and it's a good value. And to that same point, if you find Disney Vacation Club to be a complete waste of money, like an absolute waste of money, money pit situation, I think there's a good chance that you're not utilizing it correctly, or you purchase something that isn't a right fit for you. And though it can be hard for some people to wrap their head around, I do think that both of those things can be true at the same time. And this ultimately brings us to that fake Rolex comment. Now, when I first saw that portion of the comment suggesting that there are people who kind of are under the impression that DVC is like a fake Rolex salesman, I paused for a second because I've encountered people who feel that way, but there are times where even I feel that way. Don't get me wrong, I have said multiple times in past discussions, and even today, as we've been wandering through here, that I think that DVC is definitely worth the money. Again, for the right family with the right type of vacation habits. But especially with new Disney Vacation Club properties, I'll be the first person to say that I think that new DVC members are getting hoodwinked. I mean, I've had this conversation at length when we talk about Disney's Riviera Resort, which we focused on today because it's currently the newest open and for sale Disney Vacation Club resort. Like, I didn't have like a sinister underlying message that I was trying to send. It's just where I could find the most accurate numbers with the longest contracts available. But the product that Disney Vacation Club is selling has changed, specifically since the Riviera became available. Because it used to be, when you were buying Disney Vacation Club, you were buying deluxe level accommodations. And this is true for the most part, with the exception of Disney's old Key West resort, which was the first Disney Vacation Club resort. So I think it's fair to say that that one gets a pass for not being in a great location, or at least a deluxe style location. But then the Riviera came along. And when the Riviera came along, the game changed. Because instead of a new Disney Vacation Club resort located in a deluxe location, they bulldozed part of a moderate resort and popped this up there and called it deluxe. Which, for the sake of clarity, I know this is like a whole discussion in and of itself, the different categories of resorts are located in different locations. Value, the most affordable, are a bit farther out. Deluxe, the most expensive, are close. They're right in the magic. I mean, look at where we were today. We were walking distance from 2 of the theme parks with access to the Skyliner boats and, of course, our own feet and buses to get to anywhere we want to go. So lots of amenities, great location. That's what we come to expect from Deluxe and DVC. Then the Riviera opened up in what was a moderate location, and honestly it didn't sell well when it first opened. Then 2020 happened. The only place you could stay was at a Disney Vacation Club resort because contracts made it so that they needed to give members like me access to those places. You couldn't just shut them down. And so because people started renting points, they started seeing that, oh my goodness, I could be staying somewhere. And they bought contracts at places like Riviera. And though the resort lacks in a number of different ways, it still has that new car smell. So people love it. It is a shiny new fake Rolex. And it sparkles, so people love it. And it tells time, so it does the job. But it's still not the real thing. At least it doesn't feel like it to DVC members like me. But when you have enough people sing the praise of these places, Disney knows that they can get away with it. And so they do it again. We're seeing it over at the cabins at Fort Wilderness, formerly moderate accommodations that are being bulldozed, rebuilt, and called DVC Deluxe. This is probably part of where this like swing comes from. The people who both think that DVC is a money tree because it's a fantastic deal and it works really well for them, but also people who feel like DVC is a fake Rolex salesman, especially people like me who have been members for a long time and are paying attention to these changes. Of course, there are always people who could care less. You know, they're just happy with whatever it is that they can get their hands on. They don't mind the changes. Still works for them either way. And that's fine too, but you know, there are people on all sides of this and people who fall in the middle. And so we've made our way back to the Hollywood Studios area. We're gonna go over here to where we love to sit down by the flagpoles and wrap up this conversation with a bit more of my own personal perspective. Because of course we've talked about nuts and bolts, we've talked about why we became Disney Vacation Club members to begin with, but now that we've kind of covered everything, there's one more important question to ask, and that is, what is my current position on purchasing DVC? And this is actually a conversation that Russ and I have been having numerous times over the past couple years, because there are some new Disney Vacation Club properties that are becoming available, specifically the Polynesian as well as the cabins at Fort Wilderness. I'll tell you right off the bat, I will not purchase the cabins. I will not purchase any Disney Vacation Club property that was formerly a moderate, because number one, I don't like the idea of them taking away a moderate option for families who really loved and utilized those options, and I don't love that it devalues Disney Vacation Club. But the Polynesian we have considered, mainly because it's in a fantastic location, it is new, so we will have the ability to have a really long contract if we do decide to go with the Polynesian. But even so, we're struggling to convince ourselves that it's a good idea, mainly because having a home resort in a prime location like that comes with challenges. I mean, we have Beach Club as one of our home resorts, and it's a challenge to get in there, even when you're booking right at that mark that is only available to people who have contracts at that resort. We've struggled with that in the past, and I'm sure we're going to continue to struggle with it in the future as more people become Disney Vacation Club members and it becomes more cutthroat to stay at a Disney Vacation Club property. But no, it's this constant conversation of whether or not it will be worth it, whether or not it is something that we want to continue, and I'm sure that a lot of other people are experiencing that as well. Of course, it's always tough, because I think that when you are open and honest about things like this, sometimes you get a lot of pushback, and I'm sure I'll get pushback just having this conversation with you today, mainly because there are people who don't want to hear anything negative, and there are a lot of things that I said today that sound very negative, but again, it doesn't make them untrue. So with that, just to sum it up for those of you who have been here this whole time, yes, I do think Disney Vacation Club can absolutely be worth it. Yes, I also think that it can be a waste of money, an astronomical waste of money. It can even hoodwink you into paying more for less at times. But that's why it's so important to do your research, have conversations, and toy with the idea of whether or not it's actually right for you. Sometimes it's not that straightforward. But for now, I think I'm off. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys.